Hello there, wonderful listeners. Welcome to another episode of Travel Tales in Slow English. I'm Emma.
And I'm Jake. We're so happy you've joined us today. How are you doing today, Emma?
I'm doing really well, Jake. The sun is shining and I'm feeling energized. How about you?
I'm great. Thanks for asking. I had a peaceful morning with a cup of coffee and a good book. It's been a perfect start to the day.
That sounds lovely. And to our listeners tuning in from around the world, we hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are.
Absolutely. Today, we have something special planned. We're going to share our recent holiday experiences with you, and we're going to speak slowly and clearly so everyone can follow along easily.
Oh yes, I visited the beautiful city of Paris and France, while Jake explored Lisbon in Portugal. We can't wait to tell you all about our adventures.
That's right. And we'd love to hear about your holiday experiences too. So stay tuned until the end of the podcast where we'll invite you to share your stories with us.
So, Jake, Paris was absolutely magical. It was my first time visiting the City of Light, and it truly lived up to its name. The way the city glows in the evening is something special.
I've heard so many wonderful things about Paris. What was your favorite part of the trip, Emma?
Well, of course, I visited all the famous landmarks. The Eiffel Tower was incredible, especially at sunset when the golden light hits the metal structure. But honestly, what I loved most was simply wandering through the different neighborhoods, or arrondissements, as the French call them.
That sounds wonderful. Did you have a favorite neighborhood?
Montmartre stole my heart. It sits on a hill overlooking the city. The streets are narrow and winding. There are so many artists painting in the main square, and the view from the Sacré-Cœur Basilica is breathtaking.
I can imagine. Were there many tourists there?
Yes and no. The main square was quite busy, but if you walk just a few streets away, you can find quiet corners where it feels like you're discovering the real Paris. That's what I loved about the city. There's always something new to discover around every corner.
That's the joy of traveling, isn't it? Finding those authentic experiences away from the tourist crowds.
Absolutely. What about you, Jake? How was Lisbon?
Lisbon was incredible. It's built on 7 hills, so there are amazing viewpoints all around the city. The Portuguese call these viewing spots miradouros.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. Did you have a favorite viewpoint?
My favorite was probably Miradouro da Senhora do Monte. It's the highest viewpoint in the city, and you can see everything from there. The castle, the river, the red rooftops, and even the famous 25th of April Bridge, which looks a lot like the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco.
I've heard that Lisbon has those beautiful blue and white tiles everywhere. Is that true?
Yes, they're called azulejos. They're these beautiful ceramic tiles that decorate buildings, churches, and even train stations. Some have amazing detailed patterns, while others tell stories through pictures. The Tile Museum was one of my favorite places to visit.
That sounds fascinating. How about the food? I know the Portuguese cuisine is supposed to be amazing.
Oh, Emma, the food was unbelievable. I ate so much seafood, grilled sardines, octopus, and of course, bacalhau, which is their famous salted cod dish. They say there are 365 ways to prepare bacalhau, one for each day of the year.
That's a lot of ways to cook fish. Did you have a favorite dish?
I think my favorite was something called pastéis de nata. They're these small custard tarts with a flaky crust. They're best when they're still warm from the oven, with a little cinnamon sprinkled on top. I must have eaten at least 2 every day.
They sound delicious. Speaking of food, Paris is famous for its bakeries. The smell of fresh bread and pastries in the morning was heavenly. I had a croissant and coffee every single day for breakfast.
Did you visit any special restaurants or cafés?
Yes, I found this lovely little cafe in the Marais district. It was tucked away on a quiet street. They served the most amazing hot chocolate, thick and rich, almost like melted chocolate in a cup. I also tried escargot for the first time.
Snails? Really? How were they?
They were actually quite good. They're cooked with garlic butter and herbs, so they mostly taste like garlic butter. The texture is similar to mushrooms.
I'm not sure I would be brave enough to try them, but I did try some unusual things in Lisbon too. They have this liqueur called ginginha, made from sour cherries. It's served in small chocolate cups, so you drink the liqueur and then eat the cup.
That sounds like a fun way to have a drink. Did you find it easy to communicate with people in Portugal? I know you don't speak Portuguese.
That's a good question. In the tourist areas, most people spoke English quite well, but in the more local neighborhoods, it was a bit more challenging. I learned a few basic phrases like obrigado, which means thank you, and por favor, for please. Even those simple words seemed to be appreciated by the locals.
That was my experience in Paris, too. The French really appreciate when visitors make an effort to speak their language, even if it's just basic phrases.
Did you have any language mix-ups or funny moments trying to communicate?
Actually, yes. I was trying to ask for directions to the nearest metro station, but instead of saying la station de métro, I accidentally said la station de météo, which means weather station. The person looked very confused until I showed them my map.
That's hilarious. I had a similar experience in a restaurant. I wanted to ask for the bill, which is a conta in Portuguese, but I kept saying a costa, which means the coast. The waiter finally figured out what I wanted, but he had a good laugh first.
These little misunderstandings are part of what makes travel so interesting, aren't they? Speaking of which, did you encounter any challenges during your trip to Lisbon?
Challenges. The biggest challenge was definitely the hills. Lisbon is very steep in places, and I walked everywhere. By the end of each day, my legs were so tired. But they have these historic trams that help people get up and down the hills, especially the famous Tram 28, which is like a moving museum through the city.
I can imagine how tired you must have been. Paris is relatively flat, but I walked so much every day that my feet were sore each night. But it was worth it to discover so many beautiful places.
Did you face any challenges with the language barrier or finding your way around?
The language wasn't too much of an issue in the tourist areas, but I did get lost a couple of times in the winding streets of older neighborhoods. But getting lost in Paris is actually quite pleasant. You always discover something interesting, like a tiny art gallery or a charming cafe.
That's a great attitude to have while traveling. Sometimes the unplanned discoveries are the best ones.
Absolutely. Did you have any unexpected discoveries in Lisbon?
Yes. One evening, I was walking through the Alfama district, which is one of the oldest neighborhoods in Lisbon, and I heard this beautiful, mournful singing from a small restaurant. It was fado music, which is Portugal's traditional music. It was so moving, even though I couldn't understand the words. I ended up staying there for hours just listening.
That sounds like such a special experience. I love how travel connects us to different cultures through things like music and food.
Absolutely. Those authentic cultural experiences are what I remember most from my travels. Not just seeing the famous sights, but connecting with the heart of a place.
Speaking of famous sights, I have to tell you about my visit to the Louvre Museum. It's enormous. Did you know it would take about 3 days to see everything if you spent just 30 seconds at each exhibit?
3 days? That's incredible. Did you see the Mona Lisa?
I did, but it was surrounded by so many people taking photos that it was hard to get close. What surprised me was how small the painting actually is. There were other works of art that I found more impressive, like the huge painting of Napoleon's coronation or the ancient Egyptian artifacts.
How long did you spend there?
About 4 hours, and I only saw a small portion of the museum. I think you need to choose specific sections to focus on, rather than trying to see everything.
That's good advice for any large museum. In Lisbon, I visited the National Tile Museum I mentioned earlier, which was more manageable in size, but still had so much to see.
Let's talk about the people we met on our travels. Did you make any connections with locals or other travelers in Lisbon?
Yes, one of my favorite memories was when I was having coffee at a small cafe and an elderly Portuguese man at the next table started chatting with me. His English was limited, and my Portuguese was basically non-existent, but somehow we had this wonderful conversation about his childhood in Lisbon and how the city has changed over the decades. He even showed me photos of his grandchildren.
That's so lovely. Those kinds of connections make travel so meaningful. I had a similar experience in a park in Paris. I was sketching the scene and a local art teacher stopped to give me some tips. She ended up recommending a small art gallery nearby that wasn't in any of my guidebooks. It turned out to be one of the highlights of my trip.
It's amazing how these chance encounters can lead to such memorable experiences. Did you stay in a hotel in Paris, or did you try something different, like an apartment rental?
I stayed in a small apartment I found online. It was in Le Marais district, in a building from the 1800s, with these beautiful tall windows and wooden floors that creaked when you walked on them. It felt much more authentic than staying in a hotel.
That sounds perfect. I did something similar in Lisbon. I rented an apartment in the Alfama district with a small balcony overlooking a tiny square. Every morning I could hear the local vendors setting up their shops, and there was a bakery just downstairs where I got fresh bread for breakfast.
That sounds wonderful. There's something special about shopping for groceries and living like a local, even if it's just for a short time. I visited the local markets in Paris and bought cheese, bread, and fruit for picnics by the Seine River.
I did exactly the same thing in Lisbon. The Time Out Market was amazing. It's this huge food hall with all kinds of Portuguese specialties. I would buy different things to try and have picnics in various parks around the city.
Did the weather cooperate for your picnics? I was lucky in Paris. It was sunny almost every day, which is unusual for spring there.
I was there in early autumn, and the weather was perfect, warm during the day, but cool enough to sleep comfortably at night. I did have one rainy day, but I used that opportunity to visit the Oceanarium, which is one of the largest aquariums in Europe.
Oh, I love aquariums. What was your favorite part?
They had this huge central tank with sunfish, sharks, and even a manta ray. But my favorite part was actually the sea otter exhibit. They were so playful and entertaining that I spent almost an hour just watching them.
I can imagine. Speaking of entertainment, I went to a concert at Sainte-Chapelle in Paris, which is this medieval chapel with the most incredible stained glass windows. The music was beautiful, but the setting made it truly magical.
What kind of concert was it?
It was a classical concert, violin and piano. The acoustics in the chapel were amazing, and as the sun started to set during the performance, the light through the stained glass changed, creating this beautiful, colorful glow throughout the space.
That sounds like such a special experience. It's those unexpected moments that make travel so rewarding, isn't it?
Absolutely. You can plan all you want, but often the most memorable experiences are the ones you couldn't have anticipated.
Speaking of planning, if someone was going to visit Lisbon for the first time, what would you recommend they do to prepare?
That's a great question. What would you suggest based on your experience?
Well, first I would say bring comfortable shoes with good grip for those steep, sometimes slippery cobblestone streets. Also, learn a few basic Portuguese phrases, at least hello, thank you, and please. And I would suggest staying in one of the historic neighborhoods like Alfama or Bairro Alto to really feel the heart of the city.
Those are excellent tips. For Paris, I would suggest getting a museum pass if you plan to visit several museums, as it saves both money and time waiting in lines. Also, don't try to see everything in one trip. Pick a few neighborhoods to explore thoroughly rather than rushing around to all the famous sites.
That's good advice for any city, I think. Quality over quantity when it comes to travel experiences.
Definitely. And I would add that it's worth learning about the local customs and etiquette before you go. In Paris, for example, it's important to greet shopkeepers when you enter a store and say goodbye when you leave.
That's interesting. Was there anything that surprised you about French culture or customs?
I was surprised by how long meals take, especially dinner. It's not unusual for dinner to last 2 or 3 hours. It's really about savoring the food and the conversation, not just eating quickly and leaving.
I noticed something similar in Portugal. Dining is very social and unhurried, and the Portuguese tend to eat dinner quite late, around 8 or 9 p.m.
Did you try any of the famous Portuguese wines while you were there?
Yes, Portugal has amazing wines that aren't as well known internationally as French or Italian wines. I particularly enjoyed Vinho Verde, which is a slightly sparkling, very refreshing white wine from the north of Portugal. And of course, port wine, which is a sweet fortified wine that's perfect for dessert.
That sounds delicious. France is obviously famous for its wines too. I visited a little wine bar where the owner was so passionate about educating customers. He spent almost an hour explaining the different wine regions to me and helping me taste the differences.
Those kinds of personal encounters really enhance the travel experience, don't they? It's like getting a window into a different way of life.
Absolutely. And speaking of windows into different ways of life, one thing I found fascinating about Paris was how much the locals seem to value their leisure time and quality of life. The parks are always full of people relaxing, reading, having picnics, just enjoying life.
I noticed that in Lisbon, too. There's less emphasis on rushing around and more on enjoying the moment. People take time to sit at cafés, chat with friends, and watch the world go by.
That's something we could probably learn from in our own busy lives, isn't it?
Definitely. I've been trying to bring a bit of that philosophy back home with me, taking time to enjoy simple pleasures like a good cup of coffee or a walk in the park.
Me too. I've been making an effort to cook proper meals and sit down to eat them without distractions, like the French do. It really does improve the experience.
It's amazing how travel can change our perspectives and habits in positive ways. Even small changes can make a difference in our quality of life.
Exactly. And on that note, Jake, we're coming to the end of our time for today's episode of Travel Tales in Slow English.
Yes, and we would love to hear from our listeners about their own travel experiences. Have you been to Paris or Lisbon? Or perhaps you've recently visited somewhere else that left a strong impression on you.
Please share your travel stories in the comments section on our website. We'd especially love to hear about the unexpected discoveries or connections you made during your travels.
And if you have any questions about our experiences in Lisbon or Paris that we didn't cover today, feel free to ask. We're always happy to share more details.
Thank you so much for listening to our travel tales today. We hope you enjoyed hearing about our experiences, and perhaps it has inspired you to plan your own adventure.
Until next time, keep exploring the world, whether through travel or through the stories of others. This has been Jake
and Emma, wishing you wonderful journeys wherever you may go. Goodbye for now, and see you on our next episode of Travel Tales in Slow English.
Goodbye, everyone.